Magdalene had always been a hard worker. She grew up in a small town in the Midwest, where her parents instilled in her the value of a strong work ethic. When she graduated from high school, she immediately started working at a local factory, putting in long hours and saving every penny she could. As she got older, Magdalene began to dream of something more. She wanted to travel the world, experience new cultures, and live life on her own terms. But she knew that in order to do that, she would need to save up a substantial amount of money. So she set her sights on a career in finance. She went back to school at night while working full-time during the day, and eventually earned a degree in accounting. With her new skills and knowledge, Magdalene landed a job at a large financial firm in the city. For the next 25 years, Magdalene dedicated herself to her job. She worked tirelessly, climbing the corporate ladder and earning promotions along the way. She saved as much money as she could, always keeping her eye on the prize of an early retirement. Despite her success in her career, Magdalene never lost sight of her dreams. She spent every spare moment planning and researching her future travels, making sure that she'd be able to experience everything she had ever wanted to see and do. Finally, at the age of 43, Magdalene decided it was time to retire. She had saved enough money to support herself for the rest of her life, and she was ready to start living her dream. Magdalene sold her house, bought a small RV, and set out on the road. Over the next few years, she traveled all over the United States, visiting national parks, historical landmarks, and small towns. She met new people, tried new foods, and saw things she had never imagined. As she traveled, Magdalene realized that she had made the right decision in retiring early. She was finally able to live the life she had always dreamed of, and she was grateful for every moment. One day, as Magdalene was driving along the coast, she came across a small beach town that caught her eye. It was a picturesque place with quaint little shops and cafes lining the streets and a long sandy beach stretching out in front of her. Magdalene knew she had to stop and explore. She parked the RV in a nearby campground and spent the next few days wandering around the town. She met some friendly locals who showed her their favorite spots, including a hidden cove that was only accessible at low tide. Magdalene spent hours sitting on the beach, watching the waves crash against the shore and feeling the sun on her face. As she walked through the town, Magdalene couldn't help but notice how relaxed everyone seemed. People strolled along the streets, stopping to chat with each other, or sit at outdoor tables and enjoy a coffee or a snack. There was a sense of peace and contentment in the air that was infectious. Magdalene found herself drawn to the idea of settling down in this little town. She had been on the road for years now, and while she loved the freedom and adventure of traveling, she was starting to feel a little bit lonely. She missed having a community of people around her, and she longed for a place to call home. After some thought, Magdalene decided to take the plunge. She found a small cottage for sale on a quiet street just a few blocks from the beach, and she decided to buy it. She spent the next few months fixing it up, adding her own personal touches and making it feel like home. Magdalene spent her days exploring the town and getting to know her neighbors. She went on long walks on the beach and learned how to drive a boat. One evening, Magdalene decided to take her small boat out to sea and spend the night sleeping on the waves. It was a clear night, with a full moon casting a soft glow over the water. She lay down in the boat and listened to the sound of the waves lapping against the side. As she drifted off to sleep to the sound of the gentle lapping of the waves against the hull of the boat, Magdalene was startled awake by a sudden jolt. The boat was rocking violently, and she could hear something thrashing in the water nearby. She sat up and peered over the side of the boat, trying to make out what was happening. That's when she saw it. A massive great white shark, easily 15 feet long, was attacking her boat. It had bitten into the side of the boat and was shaking it back and forth, trying to get Magdalene inside. Magdalene tried to stay calm, but her mind was racing. She had heard stories of sharks attacking boats before, and she didn't know what to do. She grabbed a nearby oar and began hitting the shark with all her might, hoping to scare it away. But the shark seemed undeterred, continuing to bite and shake the boat. Magdalene frantically searched for something else to use as a weapon. She remembered that she had a can of bear spray on board, but she wasn't sure if it would be enough to scare off a 15-foot predator. She quickly grabbed it and aimed it at the shark's face and sprayed, hoping to repel it with a strong scent. To her relief, the spray seemed to do the trick. The shark suddenly released the boat and swam away. disappearing into the darkness. Magdalene sat there for a few minutes, catching her breath and waiting to make sure the shark wasn't coming back. Magdalene breathed a sigh of relief as the shark swam away, but her relief was short-lived. Magdalene thought she was safe, but she was wrong. The shark had disappeared into the darkness, but it had not given up. It circled the boat and came back for a second attack. The shark reappeared, its massive jaws closing in on her arm. Magdalene screamed in terror as the shark clamped down on her arm, dragging her into the water. Pain shot through her body as the shark shook her violently, trying to tear her arm off. Magdalene's mind raced with fear and panic as she desperately fought back, hitting the shark with everything she could find. But the shark was too strong, and Magdalene's efforts seemed to only anger it more. Just when she thought all hope was lost, Magdalene spotted a nearby boat. With all her strength, she managed to break free from the shark's grip and swim towards the boat, yelling for help. The occupants of the boat quickly sprang into action, pulling Magdalene out of the water and taking her to shore. Her arm was badly injured, and she was rushed to the hospital for emergency treatment. Magdalene spent the next few weeks in the hospital, recovering from her injuries. The attack had left her with deep wounds and extensive nerve damage in her arm, making it difficult to move or even hold things. She was devastated to learn that she might not ever fully regain the use of her arm. Despite the setback, Magdalene refused to give up on her dream of living in the beach town. She worked tirelessly to rehabilitate her arm, undergoing multiple surgeries and months of physical therapy. Slowly but surely, she began to regain some movement in her arm, but it would never be the same. Magdalene's experience with a shark attack had left her with a newfound appreciation for life. She realized that every moment was precious and should be treasured. She decided to use her experience to inspire others, sharing her story and encouraging people to never give up on their dreams, no matter what obstacles they might face. In the end, Magdalene found that her dream of settling down in a small beach town had come true. Despite the hardships and challenges she had faced, she had found a community of people who welcomed her with open arms and helped her through her recovery. She continued to explore the town and surrounding areas, but now with a newfound appreciation for life and a deeper sense of gratitude for every moment. The Thompson family had been looking forward to their vacation for months. It had been a long and stressful year, and they were all in need of a break. The family consisted of Mr. and Mrs. Thompson, their 2 children, 11-year-old Jackson and 9-year-old Emily, and their dog, a golden retriever named Charlie. The idea for the vacation had come up during a family meeting. The Thompsons had always loved traveling and exploring new places, and they had decided that they wanted to take a road trip. They spent weeks planning their trip, researching the best routes and destinations, and booking hotels and activities. The day of the trip arrived, and the family woke up early to load up their car. They had packed everything they needed, from snacks and water to clothes and toiletries. Jackson had even brought his guitar, hoping to practice during the long car rides. As they drove out of the neighborhood, Mrs. Thompson put on some music and the family sang along. They drove through several states, visiting the Grand Canyon, Mount Rushmore, and Yellowstone National Park, taking hundreds of photos to document their adventures. The Thompson family had been on a road trip for a week, exploring different parts of the country and having the time of their lives. They woke up one morning to the sound of seagulls and the smell of salt water in the air. They remembered that they were near a beach and decided to spend the day there. The family packed up their towels, sunscreen, and snacks and drove to the beach. As they walked towards the shoreline, Jackson and Emily ran ahead, eager to feel the sand between their toes. Mrs. Thompson set up the beach umbrella and chairs, while Mr. Thompson inflated the beach ball. Charlie ran towards the water, barking happily as he splashed around. The family joined him, wading into the waves and feeling the cool water wash over their feet. The children were laughing and playing, building sandcastles and collecting seashells. As the day went on, the family took turns swimming in the ocean, playing beach volleyball, and reading books under the umbrella. They ate sandwiches and fruit, enjoying the warm sun on their skin and the gentle sound of the waves. In the afternoon, the family rented a paddleboard and took turns riding the waves. Jackson and Emily were naturals, standing up on the board and paddling away with ease. Mrs. Thompson struggled a bit, but eventually got the hang of it with some help from Mr. Thompson. Charlie, the family's golden retriever, was excited to join them and barked happily as they set off into the water. As they paddled further away from the shore, Charlie started to bark. At first, the family didn't think much of it, assuming that Charlie was just excited about being on the paddleboard. As they paddled further out, Charlie began to act strangely. He whimpered and paced on the board, his eyes fixed on the water below. The family tried to calm him down, thinking he was just nervous about being out in the ocean. Suddenly, Charlie let out a loud bark and jumped off the board, diving into the water. The family was startled, but assumed he was just chasing after a fish or a bird. However, they soon realized that something was very wrong. As Charlie swam back towards them, they saw a large shadow moving beneath the water. They realized with horror that it was a shark, and it was headed straight towards them. The family froze, unsure of what to do. Suddenly, the paddleboard shook, and Mr. Thompson felt a jolt beneath him. He looked down into the water and saw a large fin disappearing beneath the surface. Mrs. Thompson and Emily started to panic, while Jackson tried to keep a level head. Charlie continued to bark, sensing the danger that was lurking below. Mr. Thompson started paddling towards the shore, with Charlie swimming alongside him. But the shark was too fast, and it quickly caught up with them. The family was terrified, but Charlie was brave. He swam between the shark and the family, barking and growling loudly. The shark hesitated for a moment, confused by the dog's aggression. Charlie didn't back down, however. He continued to bark and growl, determined to protect his family. The shark circled around the family, trying to find a way to attack. But Charlie kept swimming back and forth, keeping himself between the shark and the family. The family was able to reach the shore thanks to Charlie's bravery. As they collapsed on the sand, the family looked out at the water, where Charlie was still barking and growling at the shark. The shark finally gave up and swam away, defeated by the dog's fierce protection. The family watched in awe as Charlie returned to them, wagging his tail and seemingly unaware of the danger he had just faced. The family was amazed by Charlie's bravery and loyalty. They knew that he had saved their lives. They hugged him tightly, grateful to have such a wonderful and protective pet. From that day on, the Thompson family made sure to keep a close eye on Charlie whenever they were at the beach. They knew that he would always be there to protect them, no matter what. They also made sure to spread the word about Charlie's heroism, so that other families could learn from his example and be more vigilant when it came to shark safety. Julia had always been fascinated by sharks. Ever since she was a little girl, she had spent hours watching documentaries about these incredible creatures and reading books about their behavior and habitats. She had always been drawn to the ocean and the mysteries that lay beneath its surface. As she grew older, Julia's passion for sharks only grew stronger. She studied marine biology in college and spent every spare moment diving and exploring the world's oceans. Eventually, she decided to combine her love of sharks with her passion for filmmaking and set out to make a documentary about these misunderstood creatures. Julia spent much researching and preparing for the shoot. She read every book and article she could find about sharks, interviewed experts in the field, and planned out the shots she wanted to capture. She was determined to create a film that would not only educate people about these incredible creatures, but also dispel the myths and stereotypes that often surrounded them. It wasn't easy. Sharks were often portrayed as villains in popular culture, and many people were afraid of them. But Julia was determined to show the world a different side of these creatures, one that was beautiful, awe-inspiring, and deserving of our protection. Julia traveled to different parts of the world to film different species of sharks in their natural habitats. She went cage diving with great whites off the coast of South Africa and followed hammerheads through the crystal-clear waters of the Galapagos Islands. Her next plan was to swim with whale sharks in the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico. On the day of the shoot, Julia and her crew set out with a small boat equipped with all the necessary gear. They headed towards a known shark habitat, eager to begin filming. As they approached the area, Julia could feel her heart pounding with excitement and nervousness. The crew quickly got to work, setting up cameras and preparing the bait to attract the sharks. Julia watched in awe as several of the creatures appeared, circling around the boat. She couldn't believe how beautiful they were with their sleek bodies and piercing eyes. But then, in a split second, everything changed. One of the sharks suddenly lunged towards the boat, and Julia felt a sharp pain in her leg. She looked down to see the shark's teeth buried in her flesh and felt a surge of terror wash over her. She knew that this was the moment she had always feared, the moment when her love for sharks could cost her her life. The crew quickly sprang into action, pulling Julia back onto the boat and rushing her to shore. She was in excruciating pain, but she knew that her survival depended on staying calm and keeping her wits about her. After multiple surgeries and months of physical therapy, Julia eventually made a full recovery. During all this, she realized that she needed to tell a story that would resonate with viewers on an emotional level, and so she decided to include footage from her own attack. At first, Julia was hesitant to show the footage. She didn't want people to see her as a victim or to focus solely on the sensational aspect of the attack. But she also knew that her experience could help to humanize sharks and to show people that these creatures are not mindless killing machines. With the help of her crew, Julia created a powerful sequence that showed the attack from her perspective. She talked about the fear and the pain that she had experienced, but she also talked about the awe and respect she had for the shark that had bitten her. She explained how the attack had given her a new appreciation of life and had made her even more determined to protect the natural world. When the documentary was released, it was an instant sensation. People were moved by Julia's story and the beauty and complexity of the footage. They were also challenged to think differently about sharks and to consider their role in the ocean ecosystem. The film went on to win numerous awards, and Julia became a leading voice in the movement to protect sharks. She continued to make documentaries and to use her platform to educate people about the incredible world that exists beneath the waves. And even though she had been attacked by a shark, she knew that she had never felt more alive or more connected to the natural world.